If you're like me, then Cyberpunk is a game that you hold very dear to your heart. From that amazing layered story that drags you into V's fantastic soul-crushing journey to that vibrant open world of Night City. But as we are all aware, it never started off that way in 2020. That launch was a rocky mess for CDPR, a train wreck that left the community reeling and the game's reputation in absolute shreds. Promised as a next-gen masterpiece, it hit with glitches galore. PS4 and Xbox One versions crawled at under 15 FPS, textures loaded so late that you could see blank voids, and NPCs acted like they have just lost their minds completely. Bugs crashed quests mid-missions, cars exploded for no reason. I think you get the picture. A lot of the fanbase at the time felt very betrayed, and over 80% of early Metacritic reviews were scathing, and Sony even took it straight from the PlayStation Store. It was absolute chaos, to be honest. The game was on complete life support, teetering on the edge of oblivion. Now, as a few years went on, I think the sort of facade about Cyberpunk just faded. People just registered it in their mind as a game that failed, a game that didn't live up to the hype, and something that was just put on everyone's back burners. But suddenly in 2022 came Edgerunners, crashing into this wreckage like a cybernetic savior. The anime didn't just nod at the game, it kind of grabbed it by the throat and dragged it back from the brink, turning heads and reigniting that fire in Night City's streets. With the incredible journey and pretty brutal tale of David Martinez and his crew, it reminded us why we actually love this world, sparking a resurgence that is still echoing today, and that is what today's video is actually all about. I'm about to tear into how this show completely flipped the script, transformed Cyberpunk, and set the stage for what came and what is next. Now, just before the video starts, it actually turns out that only 0.3% of people who actually watch my videos are actually subscribed, so if you do enjoy this video or any of my other previous content, please be sure to consider subscribing. It really does help support the channel. I suppose there is no better way to kick this off where Cyberpunk was actually at. It was in a deep, festering pit reputation-wise, and back when it actually launched in 2020, it was a full-on catastrophe that completely scarred the gaming landscape. When Cyberpunk actually came onto the scene, it came with these sky-high promises, this sprawling living Night City, dripping with choices, chaos, and characters, hyped by all of these trailers, showcasing the seamless open world action and a story that actually rivaled classic games. However, when the dust settled, it was unfortunately a glitch-ridden nightmare that left players absolutely gutted. And it wasn't just a rough patch. Within the first 72 hours, over 80% of user reviews on Metacritic were completely savage, with scores dipping as low as 0.9 out of 10, a humiliating slap for a game that gulped down an estimated $300 million in development costs and actually had a marketing blitz that cost over another $100 million. The sales did kick off with a bang, 13.7 million copies flown off the shelves in the first month, but that triumph crumbled fast with refund requests soaring past 1 million, and Sony dropping another nuclear option, yanking it from the PlayStation Store, a move that was so rare that it just sent shockwaves through the industry and left PlayStation owners high and dry, like you quite literally couldn't buy the game. Bug reports flooded in with over 30,000 submissions logged in the first week alone. This wasn't CDPR's fault. Unfortunately, it was people above them that just couldn't understand the whole process of actually developing a game and the fact that things aren't going to necessarily be 100% as promised if you give them a deadline so tight. Behind the scenes as well, many developers had some pretty dark confessions, and they did reveal that they would do 100-hour work weeks at a time, some quite literally sleeping under desks. All of that work for such negative feedback and things like hashtag Cyberbug2077 trending for weeks on social media. The backlash also hit CDPR's stock as well, a 20% drop in share value within a month, and the lawsuits started piling up from angry investors and players alike. That is what the gut-wrenching, soul-crushing backdrop that Edgerunners had to step into was. A game on life support, its reputation shredded. It's mind-blowing to look back at how it plummeted so low, but that despair laid the foundation for its insane turnaround that I'm about to get into. Now, between the time that the game actually launched and Edgerunners came out, not many people were actually interested. So many people just left it. There was actually quite a lot of hot fixes and patches that came out. Patch 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, and 1.4, all very critical in actually bringing the game's stability back up. A significant milestone was actually patch 1.5 in February 2022, which enhanced next-gen optimizations for both the PS5 and Xbox Series X and S. It also fixed those remaining last-gen console crashes and actually improved the loading times by up to 50% on SSDs. The game was actually playable at this point. CDPR had gone back and fixed everything that was broken, and it was in a fantastic state, but the problem was nobody cared about it. Everybody, including myself, I am guilty of this, was under the impression that it was just a broken mess. However, there was something on the horizon that would actually get the interest levels of Cyberpunk back up, maybe even to an all-time high. Now entered Edgerunners, and wow, did this show change the game in ways that we never ever saw coming. When it smashed onto screens in 2020, it was like a neon-fueled shockwave, blasting through Cyberpunk's battered soul, sort of yanking it from the edge of that abyss where it was left to rot, where the reputation was so low. The incredible tale of David Martinez and the Edgerunners scraping for survival was enough to get people hooked into that fantastic world of Cyberpunk. Newcomers who watched it wanted more. They wanted to dive into the Cyberpunk world, so they bought the game naturally. And players who were already disappointed with the launch of the game went ahead and gave it that second chance like it deserved. Steam charts exploded with a 300% spike in concurrent players within 2 weeks. PlayStation Network as well saw a 250% jump in active players, dragging old fans back and bringing in the brand new players inspired by the Edgerunners series. Suddenly, players who had uninstalled in disgust after launch were reinstalling with a vengeance, hungry to actually roam those neon-drenched streets again, but they could actually do it this time, while newcomers dove in, lured by that anime's raw intensity. On the same day that Edgerunners actually released, Cyberpunk went ahead and released their own Edgerunners update, and that was called Patch 1.6, and I like to think of it as the game that people truly started to play. Patch 1.6 and onwards is the real Cyberpunk, the Cyberpunk that everybody knows, that Cyberpunk that everybody came back to and gave that second chance. And the importance of Edgerunners wasn't the fact that it necessarily dragged players back, but it proved that Cyberpunk 2077 had morphed into a whole different beast, and that is a hell of a turnaround worth shouting about. Those early days of crashes and hacked together corners, a distant nightmare. The updates since that disastrous launch had been a relentless grind, patching bugs that once had NPCs phasing through walls, overhauling all of the performance issues even on the last-gen consoles. As well as that, the Metacritic scores clawed up from that initial 50s gutter to a steady 85 for next-gen versions, a 35-point swing that turned heads industry-wide. Edgerunners really peeled back the curtain on the story and style that had always simmered beneath the launch wreckage. Those Cyberpunk vibes with those moral grey zones, those heart-pounding chases, the raw humanity of V's actual struggle during the game, and now it was crystal clear. As well as that, the sales rebounded too, with an estimated 5 million more copies sold post-anime launch. And the industry awards started rolling in, like a Best Technical Achievement nod at the 2023 Gaming Expo, recognizing this technical masterclass and more so this comeback. In particular, the cultural shift was absolutely seismic. Skeptics who had written it off as a flop were eating their words, with streamers showcasing actual polished playthroughs that racked up millions of views. As well as that, you had the modders come and jump in, creating content like enhanced cyberware visuals that amplified the game's edge. The community rallied, organising Night City marathons where players tackled the updated map together, and YouTube tutorials on the new mechanics flooded the site as well. It was almost like a new game release altogether. Edgerunners reframed the narrative, turning a tarnished relic into a cultural juggernaut that forced critics to reconsider their opinions. That shift wasn't some fluke. It was Edgerunners holding up a mirror to the devs' blood, sweat and code, and gave them an opportunity to show how great their game really was. Night City wasn't just that fluke destination anymore. It was a true work of art, and it was worth visiting once again. So what is actually next? Well, I think that the first season laid down a pretty clear, rock-solid blueprint. As soon as Edgerunners come out, I previously mentioned that an update came to the game on the same day, and that was the Edgerunners update 1.6. It added numerous different things. I'm sure many of you are aware that you could get David's iconic jacket. I can only imagine that going forward, with more Edgerunners content that actually comes out, that we're going to get even more updates for Cyberpunk 2077, because why not? CDPR are very guilty for saying that they're done with Cyberpunk and won't be giving us any more updates going forward. Well, as this video is currently being released, we've got update 2.3 to look forward to, and they previously said that they weren't giving us anything else, so how can I expect to believe that we're not going to get more after this? More including Edgerunners Season 2 content. When Edgerunners Season 2 comes out, there is going to be another resurgence in this game, another wave of popularity, and I imagine that the devs are going to be 100% looking to capitalize on on that and give us some content for it as well. So make sure to be on the lookout for that. But anyway guys, that will be all for this video. I'm sure it is a topic that many of us can relate to. I myself joined the Cyberpunk hype train for the second time a few months after this anime actually released, but for you I'm imagining that you got right back into the game as soon as Edgerunners dropped. So anyway, let me know about your opinion in the comments. Do you think this was the whole reason why Cyberpunk came back to life, or do you think there were some other things as well that definitely helped? As well as that, please be sure to give the videos a big thumbs up, and as well as that, if you did enjoy this or any of my previous content, please be sure to consider subscribing. Do you have any video suggestions that you want to see me do? Also, be sure to comment those ideas as well. But anyway guys, thank you very much for watching and have a great rest of your day.